Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 59, Sexual Addiction, Part 2. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
And this is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, Healing Your Family Legacy. Last time I started talking about sexual addiction as another way to distract yourself from your painful reality. Now, a lot of that painful reality has to do with trauma. Let me just be clear about that. Sexual addiction is not a result of being a bad person. All right. We all have sexuality. And, unlike drugs and alcohol, which are also addictions that I've talked about, you can't just decide, well, I'm going to abstain, although people have. I have in my practice had people abstain. Now, I want to also, before I get into all of this, I want to let you know, because the topic of sexual addiction may not be for little ears, but I don't think it's bad for adolescents to be hearing this, because they are in a potentially dangerous situation when they decide that internet pornography is somehow sexual education. Or if you're a parent and you think that internet pornography is sex education, I'm just going to go out there on a limb and say, shame on you. Do your job. Don't let your kid look at internet pornography. It messes them up hugely. All right? And this is what I was talking about last week when I said we're going to talk about this some more. Is that because I've had so many years of experience with addictions, I can tell you the level of trauma, the level of destruction that sexual addiction has on people's lives, and particularly internet pornography and internet sex. Because it's not all just pornography, $1 billion, not just $1 billion. It is multi-billion-dollar industry. Sexual addiction with internet pornography. People are making huge amounts of money off your addiction if you are an internet pornography addict. All right. So I want to talk about, I keep getting distracted myself, is that I want to talk about the impact of internet pornography on men's brains. Again, because we talked about this last week, but how early it can start. And for, if you are a teenager listening to this, I want you to understand what it does to your brain. If you are under the age of 25, your brain is still developing, all right? And if you remember the first time being aroused, and for boys, that could be really young. I mean, it can be as young as 4 or 5 years old, when they're first aware that they are interested or aroused somehow. And all that means is that their pleasure center has been activated. That's all it means. And your brain, we all have a pleasure center. It's in our brain. Just like I've talked about, we all have a pain center. It's in our brain. Everything that happens, it's in our brain. Now, because of PET scans, we've been able to see how when men see something that interests them and causes them to be aroused, it just means their pleasure center has been activated. And so if you are under the age of 25 and your brain is still being developed, would you rather have your pleasure center be activated by a real human being? Like I'm just going to say, if you're a heterosexual boy, adolescent, who's interested in girls, and you might remember when you first started being interested in girls, I've watched 10-year-olds, their sexuality gets, starts to show up, or 11-year-olds, because I used to be a playground supervisor for my son's school as my volunteer activity when he was in school, and I've seen it. And what do? The first thing they do is they tease them. They tease the girls, all right? Or they avoid them. But, most of the time, if they're heterosexual boys, they're out there and they're teasing the girls, and they're, trying to get their attention is all they're trying to do, because their brain is saying, oh, that's interesting to me, and their pleasure center gets activated just a little bit. You don't have control over this. It's just part of your development. You don't have any more control over this than you do about growing up. Okay? You just don't. You don't have control over whether or not you're going to be 6'5" or whether or not you're going to be 5'10". You don't have control of that. And you don't have control over what it is that's going to light up that pleasure center. And your sexuality is one of the biggest things that lights that up. And so again, I want to say, do you want that to be a real person, or do you want it to be something on the screen of your computer? And some people might say, well, I'm good with it being a screen on my computer, because then I don't have to worry about asking someone out. And that might be true for a while. But guess what? As you grow and your brain starts to, become what it's going to be when you're about 25 or so, it starts to say, that's not enough. And at some point, all those images, or even if you're seeing real women, quote, I'm putting that in air quotes, real women, on your internet on your computer telling you, oh, you're gorgeous. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, women like that. Yeah, let me see more of that. Okay, say they do this and they're on the internet. At some point, your brain says, that's not enough. Because we're wired to want to connect with other real human beings. And around our sexuality, you boys are wired to want to reach out to real women. And so when the internet's not in front of you, like let's say you're out on the playground, or let's say that you're at your first dance, or let's say you're at your first party, okay? Let's say you're at your first place where you might really see girls, real girls. You go up to them and you start acting the way that the internet has showed you to act. I will tell you, you end up in jail, or you end up in the principal's office, or you end up somewhere you don't want to be. And those girls will think you're a freak. Now, that's about other people. Let me tell you what it does to yourself personally. Let's say that you've been watching internet pornography and you think you all know everything about sexuality now, right? You think you've got it down. And so, but your brain has been wired to your internet pornography. Your desire to be with a woman or a girl is still there, right? And so you go over and let's say you start going out with somebody. Let's say you are able to get past the fear of being rejected. You ask somebody out to, say, go to a party. And, excuse me, the girl says, okay. And so you go out and you go to the party and you find out you really like this girl. And she's really interesting and she makes you feel happy when you're around her. And so you think you want to spend more time with her. And then let's say you get to the point where after a while you want to explore some sexual, like messing around or necking or whatever, kissing. And you find out that, well, you kiss her and nothing happens for you. Nothing. Let's say you get to be an adult and you want to start being sexual with people that you meet, and you get to the point where you want to be sexual and nothing happens. When I say nothing happens, I mean that you can't get aroused, and if you do get aroused, or you do get an erection, it goes away before you can do anything. Why? Because that part of your brain that is all around your sexuality is now connected to the internet pornography. And I've had, 17-year-old boys, 18-year-old boys, 20-year-old boys, 25-year-old men in my office saying, we've got this relationship, it's been going really well, but I'm not interested in, I really like her and we have great times and I think I could see myself with her, but I'm not interested in being sexual with her. And she's going, what's up with you? We've been dating. We've been talking about, taking this to the next step, and now you're not interested. And they're saying to me, this is real. What's wrong with me? And then I find out, they've been looking at internet pornography for the last 8 or 9 years. Guess what's happened? When I said your sexuality's been hijacked, that's exactly what I mean. Your sexuality doesn't belong to you anymore. You're not able to make decisions about, gee, I really like that girl, or hey, maybe I'm gay and I really like that guy, but we can't have sexual interaction without the internet. Is that what you want in your life? Is it the only way I can be sexual now? Is if I'm looking at internet pornography? Or the only way I can be sexual now is by behaving in ways that the internet pornography has tricked my mind into thinking that that's how it goes? This is a huge problem. And it's not just with adolescents. I'm talking about grown men too, who, let's say they started looking at internet pornography maybe once or twice, and they thought, well, that's interesting, but they really liked being with their spouse or their boyfriend or whoever they're with. They really preferred that. But let's say there's conflict going on over there, or there's problems in their relationship. Let's say that that's happening. And so instead of dealing with their sexuality with their spouse or their partner or their boyfriend, let's say they say, oh, well, I'm kind of got some sexual energy going on right now. I think I'll go over to the internet and just masturbate. And so they start doing that. And it's like, wow, they say to themselves, wow, this is so much easier than dealing with that. That meaning the issues, the reality of interacting with another human being on a day-to-day basis. It's not always easy. And I know something about that because I've been in a relationship, a few others before I finally got married. But, 20 years, there's a lot to be worked out. Doesn't need to be a fight, but, it's like, oh, well, we're trying to work these issues out. And, if you got sexual energy, it's like, I don't want to go over there. Why not? Why not? Should I go over there and try and interact with my spouse and be intimate with my spouse? Because it's easier to go on the internet and get those needs met in the moment. I say, well, you know what? If you are having so many conflicts in your relationship that you're not interested in working them out to the point where you can have intimacy again, you might want to reconsider the relationship, maybe get some marital counseling. Or if it's I've known people who say after the birth of a child, their spouse isn't interested in sex. Well, gee, I wonder why. Isn't interested for a while because they just had a baby come out of their body. And then, they're up all night, feeding the baby, taking care of the baby all day, feeding the baby, taking care of the baby, changing diapers, trying to deal with all that. And of course, as a mother, you love to do that. Maybe not in the moment, it's kind of a problem, but it's like you love the baby. And so you're willing to do that. But it's exhausting. And so you may not be interested in sex with your spouse for a while. And, in that case, it might be appropriate for a spouse to go and masturbate once in a while, but not to internet pornography. It isn't good for you. It's not good for your brain. I'm not like a crusader. Oh, I'm telling you what's great, what you should be doing, because should has nothing to do with it. Should is irrelevant. It messes with your brain. It hijacks your sexuality. That's why. Because I think your sexuality is great and good, and it's a gift. And what you do with that, I don't know if you really want some entity out there that you don't even know, you can't really even know is real. You don't want that entity out there to be in charge of your sexuality, do you? Most people don't. It's like saying, oh, you want some, once you want some, person that is, like can't even afford to eat in another country. You want them to be in charge of your sexuality, someone you'll never meet, someone you'll really never know. How about somebody that is, say underage, is a child? Is that who you want to have be in charge of your sexuality? Because I'll tell you what right now, internet pornographers know a couple of things. One is that they've been around long enough that they understand how it works in your brain. And that after a while, you'll get bored. Okay? Or after a while, you're going to get busted. But if you're bored, they can kind of know that by how you respond on your keyboard on the internet, what kind of money you're willing to spend, because this isn't free, okay? So it's like they've got your credit card number, and they can tell how much money they're making off you. And if all of a sudden it starts to drop off, guess what they do? They add another level of danger, because danger is something that also can light up that part of your brain, especially if it's connected with sexuality. So what they do is they say, well, this pornography with, adult people isn't really cutting it anymore for that person. So let's just take it down a level and say, how about those teenagers? How about young people? How about fresh new people? And what they're talking about is using now adolescents for their pornography. It's against the law. And, if you are a regular person, say growing up as a, with ethics and values and things like that, and even though it's against the law, you're going to feel fear, and you're also going to feel shame and guilt, and all those are really powerful feelings that go along together, but it lights up your brain. And so you go on there and you start clicking on those images. And you can click on hundreds of images at once, not at once, but hundreds of images, say in just a couple of minutes or a half hour. And every time one of those images comes up, it lights up that part of your brain, and those neural canals are all going deeper and wider. And, and then your brain is like saying, that's not doing it for me anymore either. There's nothing else there. It's empty. There's no relationship. There's no interaction with people. There's no going home and seeing your family or your loved ones. That, it's like, it's not all about sex, people. It's not just all about that, right? And so what do the internet pornographers do once they see that, that young thing isn't working anymore? Now we're into some serious child pornography. Most people who have been busted for child pornography, I'm not seeing in my office. Guess why? They're in prison. And if they're lucky, they'll get out of prison someday. But even people in prison don't like people that use children. They don't like it. So you might get killed in prison. I'm sorry, but that's how it goes. I know you didn't mean to. But the first choice you make is the most important one. Now, it's just like any other addiction. So if I want to put that stuff in my vein, like that heroin in my vein, the first time is the most important choice I'll ever make. Because if I do it once, I don't know if that will be enough. And people who push addictive substances know this because they want you to come back. They want your money. That's what's about for them. They want your money, and they will do whatever they need to do to get your money. And so I have never met anybody that started out using internet pornography to get into child pornography. I never knew anyone like that. And I've known a lot of sex addicts in my life. God, I wish I didn't, but I have. And it's not, I wish I didn't for myself, but I think of those men who are wonderful human beings, and they've been busted, and they've been in trouble because of their internet pornography. And some of it child pornography. That's not what they meant to do. Just like somebody that drinks too many drinks and gets behind the wheel of a car and kills somebody. That's not what they meant to do. Addiction is behaviors that you participate in, that you act out in over and over again in spite of harmful consequences. And sexual addiction is one of those. People go out and hire prostitutes. That's not what your sexuality is about. Your sexuality is about relationship. And if it's like prostitutes know this. And, oh, by the way, they don't get all the money you give them. That goes to their pimp, who beats them up, uses them, abuses them. And those people die at early ages in horrible ways. Those are human beings that you're using. All right? Because you don't feel like interacting with a real human being. They treat you, they say what you want to, they know what you want to hear, so they'll say it. They'll do what you want them to do. They'll do it because they want your money. And even if you think, well, I'm going back to the same prostitute and she's really nice and she really cares. No, she doesn't care about you. She cares about your money because her boss cares about her making money, her pimp. There are all kinds of ways people's sexuality gets hijacked. And before the internet, yes, people still got their brains hijacked by pornography, but they had to drive to the internet. They had to drive to the pornography store. They had to risk their wife or their boss seeing them go into those places. There was shame that was just based around behaving in that way. We have become a shameless society when it comes to pornography. It's like we're getting used to it. Don't get used to it because your brain will forever be hijacked. It will become blasé. It will become a place where, I'm not interested in that anymore. Guess what? You missed all those years of learning how to interact with other people and become sexual with other people, because most of the time that's called adolescence. When you mix it up and, try and figure out how you're going to do that and get over the fear of rejection. Okay, that's over. You can still learn how to do it, but it won't be easy. It'll be 10 times harder. You might think, that's really hard in adolescence because you don't know. It's called developmental stages, okay? And developmental stages are funny in that they have a beginning and an end. And at the end of that developmental stage, you've either got it or you haven't. You can learn it when you're an adult, but it'll never feel normal. It'll never feel easy. So, sexual addiction is a huge problem in our society, in all society. I mean, it's like out of control. Why? Because there's internet. It's always been there. Prostitution's always been there. Pornographic images have always been there. But now it's never been like where you can just go in your room, open up your computer, think that you're by yourself. Everything you do is still on that computer. It's in the cloud. People can find it. That's why you might think you're looking at internet pornography with children, child pornography. Guess what? The FBI is following you. They know. There is nothing private about the use of your computer. And if you think that, you are absolutely delusional. You need mental health care right now because that delusion is going to cost you big time. You might end up in jail. You might end up divorced. You might end up, being by yourself for the rest of your life, trying to figure out why that pornography doesn't interest you anymore. No more sexuality for you. These are big costs. And guess what? You can get in recovery for your sexual addiction. But then you have to learn your sexuality. You have to reprogram your brain, and that takes time. And all the people I've known and worked with, the just stopping, it's like going through withdrawal from sexual addiction is a freaking nightmare, and it can last for up to 90 days where you can't sleep and you feel like you're going to take someone's head off. You can't focus. It's awful. And if you think I'm making it up, ask anyone that's been through it. Go into a SAA meeting and listen to the nightmares that those people have experienced and that they're still experiencing. Or into S-Anon, which is for wives and spouses and partners of people who are sex addicts. Those people are just in so much pain. So I want you to think about that. Now, next time I am going to talk about recovery. And so that you can understand that there is a way to recover, because you can't abstain from your sexuality very easy. I know one or two people who have or have told me that they have, but I suspect that they're just running that stuff in their brain, so nobody knows. But we'll talk about that next time. So stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2022, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.